Last Sunday, I was so disappointed that the gospel reading ended right before what I considered one of the most important verses in the entire Bible. In fact, I think it's a verse that sums up the whole Bible from Genesis to Apocalypse, to the book of Revelation. And then today I'm delighted to see that the Gospel of John picks up exactly where it left off last week and begins with that famous saying, "As the Father has loved me," Jesus said, "I have loved you." That to me is the summary of the whole biblical story. We've been meditating on the life of Jesus since Advent, going through all the stages of his life as a child and a young person, his teaching, his calling of the disciples, his suffering, his death, his resurrection, as we're celebrating in these days. And next week we'll celebrate his ascension, his leaving us in the flesh and going back to the Father, and finally his sending of the Spirit. And so these readings in these last days of Easter are bringing together the whole meditation that we have been making together as a church in these last many months. This reading today ties it all together because Jesus says to us, "I have called you friends. You're not only my disciples, you are my friends." Now we say among ourselves, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your relatives. But with God, that is not so. St. Peter reminds us in his second letter, in the very first verses, Jesus, the Christ, has given us everything that is necessary that we can share in the very nature of God. In modern terms, he would be saying, we can now share in the very DNA of God himself, something which adoptive parents cannot do in this world, share their DNA with their adopted children. But we have been given in Jesus the ability to live with the very life of God himself. And that's exactly what Jesus calls us to do. He says, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Live on in that love. Abide in that love." In other words, continue to live who you really are. You are a divinized person. You are filled with the life of God himself, the life of my Father, the life I have within me, and the life of the Spirit that will come upon you at Pentecost. This is the Christian vocation. This is our calling. This is the will of God for the entire world, to live the life of God himself, not only after death, but now, as we live together the life which Jesus has given us, the very life of God. And so as we continue our Easter celebrations, let us remember the gift we have within us. It's not something we have to achieve, it's something we already have, the life of God. Let it out. Let it show itself in the way we think, in the way we speak, in the way we behave towards each other. What a world that would be if all the Christians of the world were living out their DNA fully to the limit. What a world it will be when we finally do that.